I want to honestly talk about what is going on between men and women. But I would like to tell you a little bit about myself because I know that people are walking around with their fist up, ready to attack anybody they see on the internet and on the streets with these gender wars. But you have no idea who I am and whose side I'm on, or if I'm even on anybody's side. Okay? So let me tell you just a little. I grew up as a middle child of boys, okay? I have two older brothers and one younger brother, and my younger brother is my best friend still to this day, okay? So he has been my lifting buddy. I can order full meals from him for him. We have the same exact movie jokes, things about Jurassic Park and Star Wars and all the sci-fi and fighting Rocky movies that we love together, okay? So I grew up with dudes. So my brothers, as I grew up with them, never looked at me as some sort of domesticated woman. I never experienced a lot of the things that we're seeing out in the world today. My brothers never looked at me like I was incompetent or I was stupid. I have noticed that this is definitely a social conditioning, okay? My brothers, they used to pick me for sports, and I was very happy about that. They did because they knew how good I was when we were little kids in our backyard and stuff. They came to my room. They used to ask me for advice. I helped them be some of the best dressed guys in the school. And so I'm telling you all of that because if there was ever a woman to help men, it is me, okay? America has gender problems that can be solved. They are literally from social conditioning. You can be angry or you can get a solution. Both sides are spewing hate, okay? So I want to show you what is going on and then present you with what I believe is a solution. Is it difficult? Of course it is. All solutions are usually difficult. Is it worth it? Yeah. So let me just give you an outline of what I want to talk about. Okay, this is going to be just quite conversational. I'll tell you a lot of different stories and stuff in this. Okay, so we'll start with what men are complaining about, and then next I'll give you some stories and some insights about things that I have gathered from female friends of mine, and then of course the fact that I am a woman, and then talk about where all of this came from, because as I said, social conditioning, so scripts, and then I'll close with something helpful. Not easy, but something that you can be thinking about and doing. Okay, so let's talk about how men are viewing women. We'll sort through what is real versus what is misdirected and misconstrued. Obviously, I cannot hit everything, but I'm going to try and hit a lot. Okay, so men are complaining that women are indecisive and they outsource everything and then they act like they're super overwhelmed by like everything in the world. Yeah, I can totally see that. Women saying that they want equality, but then expect men to carry traditional financial and protective burdens simultaneously. Yep, 100%. Next one I've definitely seen. Women claim leadership capabilities, and then they can't handle the pushback when, without making it into something personal. Just to let you know, if you are a leader, then you should expect to be assaulted like a leader. The personal attacks, you should expect them. Women are emotionally reactive in ways that make conflict resolution impossible. So just to sum that up, I heard a lot of men say that women are just super argumentative. Instead of being agreeable now, they are disagreeable. Dating feels transactional, right? So men feel like they're going up against some sort of checklist, like are the boxes ticked? Yeah, but I think that's going on both sides, to be fair. But yes. This is what I think is misdirected, okay? So we're saying that the behaviors, we're diagnosing them as female nature rather than social conditioning. So we're literally saying, this is the way men are, big blanket statement. This is the way women are, big blanket statement, and not actually accounting for, I suppose, the nature versus nurture, like the culture that they grew up in, the time period. What is it that women are like? I think that a lot of people don't understand the capability of women, so they're just summing it up in female nature. Right now, we're having a lot of people claiming that like women shouldn't vote and other intelligent things because women aren't decisive and they're not self-sufficient. But women were raised by men and a system that taught women to not be decisive and self-sufficient, which I'm going to get into. And I think this is one of the biggest problems here. We're seeing men, they are mad at the strategy and the system that stopped working, but they never actually asked where it came from. Let me break that down just a little bit. So the strategy that has been in place, the system that has been in place, whether we wish to admit it or not as a collective group, was to really keep women quite small, independent, and oriented essentially around male approval. It was a dependency built in. Yes, we are interdependent, but and I'm seeing it more and more coming back. It's more like women were supposed to be dependent on men with the whole provider, protector, leader trope. These are a lot of scripts that we've been given. And this has caused a lot of women, especially younger ones, to believe that women are in fact supposed to be dependent on men as opposed to interdependent. So this was conditioning, and then the structure changed. Women came into the workforce. A lot of economic shifts have taken place, and now men are experiencing women in a different type of way, and they are asking what happened to women. And so I want to talk about that kind of structure, what happened kind of essentially from the 1950s to now. Okay. Just calm down. Some people probably just drop out or be angry. This helplessness and dependency that, as I said, I'm seeing it again. It's showing up in these videos. It's like a learned aestheticized helplessness, like the whole trad wife and being home. It's coming back. And that's just a 1950s trope. It's because we can't seem to get rid of these roles. We can't seem to understand human agency as individuals. We are very much stuck in gender boxes. But let me tell you what I have observed in women throughout my life, okay? Growing up with female friends. So I have had girlfriends who, when I was younger, they couldn't order things off menus. Like, you would think that they were making decisions that were of national interest just to make a menu choice. I've seen too many girls from my youth who they need a boyfriend in their life. They need a man in their life to make their decisions. They always go to them. They just default to the guy, always asking him to make decisions for her. And I don't know. I understand caring, like if you're married, to check in with your spouse and be like, make sure that you're on the same page. But to actually flat out outsource your brain and say, I'm just so tired, I'm not going to make these decisions. The man is the decision maker. That's a problem. That's making a woman look like she's flat out stupid. And I saw this in my girlfriends when I was younger, and I was like, I don't get it. How can you be in a school and you can pass a test, but yet you need a boyfriend to make your, I don't know, decisions for you and choose what you have to wear and stuff like that. I had a friend say to me, Neff, you can't just beat men like in all these sports and all this stuff and expect to get a boyfriend. So there was a mindset in that girl. That means she noticed something. That if you're too competent of a woman, that men or boys at that time would be like, oh, she's not going to play nice. She's not going to be the type of girlfriend that I want. This is going all the way back, I'm talking like 20 something years ago when I was in school. So women knew this. We were taught a certain kind of way to be to get a boyfriend. I have met women who right now they have analyzed like the entire political landscape and analysis. They can name all the systems and the institutions and the structures that have failed them and women, but they can't still walk into their boss's office, ask for a raise, or be assertive in any kind of way. They'll allow their bosses and people to just walk all over them. And then instead of actually, sticking up for themselves, they'll like turn around and vent to somebody else because they don't know how to navigate that space still. So instead of advocating for themselves, they say things like, they should know how much I contribute or what I do. And I think the key word that we have there is should, right? So the second somebody says should, that means that we are handing over our agency to somebody else, expecting that they're going to do the right thing. You can't go to work expecting anybody to do the right thing. I'm sorry, but that's just human nature and reality there. So people are the one running institutions. Institutions don't run themselves. And institutions don't have a conscience. People respond to things like leverage, not, you having patience. There you have to bargain at work. I mean, these are just the rules of the games you kind of have to understand. And women don't fully know how to play them in the man's arena. But there is another word that I've had a lot of girls tell me that they see in me and they wish they had, and it's called assertiveness. Yeah, but I know men who aren't assertive either. It's a trait it's a muscle, I would say, that you have to work on. Another observation I've seen in a lot of girls that's quite sad, and this is what you see a lot in the manosphere that they're trying to fight, is the girl who thinks that she should just have a rich man. It's real. I've worked with them, and you'll see this average looking girl, and she'll be like, I'm just not doing what's right for me. Like, why am I working so hard? Like, where are the rich men? I'm just not making the right decisions. I got to go out and find a rich guy. The amount of girls I've worked with in serving jobs and bartending and cashiers and working at retail stores, and all they say is, I have to get a rich man. The reason they think this is because somebody taught it to them. These are not like random broken women, people. This is a system that produced this type of woman. They actually said, oh, if I am a certain way, there is a certain type of man who will pay for this. It was taught. So that's why I say this came from somewhere, guys. So the system, the patriarchy, if you wish, rewarded women for likability over competence, dependency over development, and proximity to male resources over building their own. And men were okay with this at the time. They were the kind of men who didn't want a woman to beat them in a sport or a game at school or whatever. They are the type of guys who produced this system. They did not want to compete with women in the workforce. They wanted to believe that women were less than them. So women were taught to be agreeable, to be liked. We just believe that women are just agreeable, but now they're just argumentative. Women were taught to be agreeable, to be liked. That's the people pleasing. The whole dumb blonde concept, that was like Marilyn Monroe, and she was not dumb, which is why her situation was so sad. It was contrived to make a woman as beautiful as Marilyn Monroe be fawning over like ridiculous looking men. If you watch any of those movies from back in the day, I had to look it up. I said, this is stupidity. I said, there's no way a woman like this talks to some of these men. I'm in love with you. Can I help you? It was like the movies from like the 50s and the 40s. They're so bad. Some of the movies are good. It's just the way that the women talk to the men. I'm like, yeah, they made them do that in Hollywood at that time. So let's please be honest. A lot of men needed a woman who couldn't beat them at things, not because they thought that it was good for her, but because it felt good for him. So let's go into the workplace. The workplace has been tough for women. More and more women have gone into the workforce, and women had to figure out very quickly that just being competent at something would not move a woman up in the workforce, right? So there's a lot of finagling that women have to do just to be seen as not just competent, they have to be more competent than a man. The second a woman speaks in a certain type of way, men tone police her. If a woman is assertive, they call it aggressive. There's just language that is used for a woman in a specific way because men in their minds have a specific idea of what they want a woman to look like. So women had to do things to like befriend certain people, be likable to other ones, likable to certain decision makers to get roles. This is where you got a lot of women who slept with a lot of men to move up. I know that some people think that referencing a TV show makes me like an idiot, but the TV shows are all based on some semblance of reality. So in Mad Men, it's really great to watch Joan. She sleeps with somebody for not just a promotion, to become an owner. And the men are talking to her like, don't do it, don't lose your dignity. What dignity? You're sleeping with the whole world and you have a wife. But for the woman, it's don't lose your dignity by doing such a thing. Well, she becomes a partner. And she did exactly what the men did. They just had a different idea of what a woman should do. So with that, a lot of men don't want a woman who ever seems like she's very ambitious because that reads as threatening. So women have, or used to, kind of dumb ourselves down, letting a man take the credit for work that women have done to keep the peace, and then, to frame any kind of assertiveness carefully so it doesn't trigger being a difficult person. These are the language that women have had to work with and deal with in the workforce. Now, before you say that women being in the workforce is the problem to begin with, that's it. Women should just not even be there. Okay, let me tell you what leveled the playing field, because you already know what it is. It's technology. So technology moved everything, not emotional. It's not a service model. It's mental. Okay? So the economy stopped running on physical dominance and started running on, what's in our heads. So that changed everything. So the second somebody wants to talk about, we need to go back to the days where of force and like men had physical strength, it doesn't matter, because there are male lawyers and bankers and psychologists. So the old justifications just don't make sense. Okay, so men go to war more so than women. They have the draft and women don't. That still is a primarily physical field, but the majority of fields in America are no longer dominated by physical strength. They're just not. We all know this. Okay? You're sitting on a camera for the most part, making videos, half the content creation economy. So truthfully, it was never really about capability. It was really about control of access. And I want to tell you about a time I was in a comment section in a manosphere video. I am not a dismantle the patriarchy type of woman. I'm not, never have been, right? I already told you, I grew up with boys. So I love structure, I love meritocracy, I love competence, I love those things. So I don't remember what this guy said, but it was something about, women having their place in society and going back to the 1950s model or something like that. And so this is what I said to this guy. I said, I have no problem with the patriarchal structure, except for the fact that there are some tweaks that need to be made. There are systems and institutions that are wrong. And that if those were eradicated, I said, I really have no problem with the way the system was. So this is what I wrote in the comments. I said, if we could get rid of strip clubs, porn, and hypersexualized ads of women, if we could stop sexualizing and infantilizing women, I said, I'm totally fine with the patriarchal system. Yeah, totally fine. Silence. He didn't comment back. Nobody commented on it. I got no hearts because I told you I was in a manosphere video. So I already knew when I wrote that. They don't want the feminine and traditional wife, just the wife who's at home, highly respected role that's honorable. That's not what they want. They want the woman in that position and also the sexualized infrastructure simultaneously. That's what they want. A lot of men, especially in these, or if you want to say that it's not most, well, the ones who are the most vocal, they want that. Ask men. If you could have a wife, would you be okay if all porn and all strip clubs and all hypersexualized ads were eradicated from the United States of America? And I think that you would have trouble finding men to actually sign that. I think you would. I'm not saying that you wouldn't find some men who would, but I think you would find a lot of men would sit there and struggle right there. I'm stuck with just one wife and I can't even look at another woman. That's it. You can look at a woman, but with decent eyes now. I think a lot of people would struggle. Just my thoughts. This is one of the biggest complaints with women. Now, I don't like bulking all men and all women in groups. I don't like to do that because there are good people in all groups. There are decent people in all groups. And there's a lot of different things that are going on. There are women who still want to be sexualized because that's how they make their money, because that's what they were taught. Not only taught that it sells, but there are buyers, loads of buyers, tons. You have OnlyFans women who are becoming multimillionaires. I'm not saying all of them are or most of them are, but there still are some. And once that model exists, then women are going to say, hey, I can take the easy route. Unless that is gone, unless it's gone, then some are going to take that route. That's just how that's going to work. So I do know that some of you in the comments may automatically want to say, well, you're not going to talk about the emotional women who are on the woke left, who are destroying society. And I am going to agree with you 100%. That is very, very real, but it's too big for this. So it's definitely a separate video. It is a very large conversation, but so this is what I want to say. It's not just them. There is low emotional intelligence and an avoidance of internal work on both sides. So it's not just a woman problem or a man problem. It is actually a people problem. So both sides, men and women, are running from something, and I'll have to address it in another video, but I am recognizing it is a real thing. The emotional, super emotional women on the woke left. I'm aware of it. Yes. But I want to talk about the reaction from men in this manosphere specifically because they gain a lot of traction. And even if a man doesn't acknowledge being a red pill man, I am finding more and more men are heavily influenced by it, especially if they are upset that they haven't found a wife or they're bitter about it. So it's seeping in. Even ones who wouldn't identify that way. So here's the problem with the manosphere and the red pill. I'm not going to even come at them hostile. No, I've listened to what they're saying, and the issue is they are promoting tyranny. They're not promoting love. I have listened to Andrew Tate and Nick Fuentes and Myron Gaines, and I said, these guys are very hostile. I said, they don't even make any sense to me. I said, how are they going to talk so poorly about women? And they're acting like there's not a single decent woman on the planet. They're acting like literally every single woman they meet is an idiot. But Myron Gaines was in an interview with Candace Owens, and I'm not saying that I promote Candace Owens, but you can't say that Candace is stupid. So she would be a high agency woman. And Myron just writes it off and says that she has like masculine traits. But that's not the way women are. That's not appropriate. That's not intelligent. That's just not even true. So the way they're talking is literally the subjugation of women again. And they're bringing back, the language of make a sandwich. And tyranny can compel behavior, but it cannot compel desire. So you could force a woman to be your wife if that's what you want to bring back, that's what you want, but you can't force her to love you. And what I'm gathering is maybe some men don't even care if the woman did love him. So we want to go back to some sort of role where women were compliant, hollow, just completely gone inside. I mean, I've read books. I was reading Babbitt, and that's from the 1920s. And the author's talking about the wife at home. Her husband doesn't even see her. Like she's just a missing woman, even though she's present in the household. That's what we want to go back to? We want to go back to women not being people? Okay, so that is not love. That is totally a counterfeit. That's just a subjugate wife. And I know why they can't promote love. First of all, love is not viral. Love is hard. It's sacrificial. And as I said, you cannot force love. So a man cannot force a woman to love him. But if a man became the type of man worth loving, then women would long for him. Would long for it. I've watched some videos where I saw one where this man was going through like just his traits and like he was a high agency man, like the things that he has done in life and his diligence and his discipline in life. And you should have seen these women. They were like longing for him. Now, did they deserve him? No, I didn't know their character. I don't know what they were like, but they still desired that type of man. So it can be done. But that requires work that the shortcut that we made was designed to avoid. So the shortcut was just get a spouse. That's the 1950s model. Get a spouse. It has nothing to do with you loving the person at all. And that shortcut ruined the thing that we're actually trying to get. I mean, why aren't we advancing? Why are we trying to go back to a model that didn't actually work? All you can say is that you're married, but inside the marriage was still not love. So women took the shortcut of performed helplessness and then lost themselves by doing this. And then men are being sold this shortcut of control and will get this compliance. They'll get compliance from a woman, but will not get love. So you have to ask what you are looking for, because both of those are tragic and both of them are connected. Control gets you compliance. Working on your character can get you love. You have to ask what it is that you want. Do you want a spouse, or do you want to be loved? Join me on the floor and let's see what you can do. Is it just for show? Say, girl, can that body move? Back up and